Oh my gosh, 24,000 Koreans affected as Trump administration ends open-ended student visa status. But this is very disturbing. Listen, you need to know, Americans are not behind this. The vast majority don't support this nonsense. I apologize. 안녕하세요, Professor Sam here, and welcome back. I had so much fun reading the news, actually, a few days ago that I'm going to do it again. There's so many stories. Every day I find stories and things that I want to comment on. Or I find myself commenting in my own head, and then I think, oh, I could talk about this in class, and then I'm not in class. And so here we are again for our second episode of this. So we'll see how it goes. So here's an article from the Korean Times. Korean students and their parents face uncertainty over tightened US visa rules. Oh my gosh, 24,000 Koreans affected as Trump administration ends open-ended student visa status. Korean students preparing to study in the US are now grappling with growing uncertainty after the Trump administration announced a new visa rule. So capping the duration of international student stay to 4 years. Yeah, this is very unsettling. First off, I just want to say, in 4 years, Trump will no longer be in power and the next president will rescind this because the next president will be smart and thoughtful about this issue. Under the new rule, non-immigrant students on F visas and exchange visitors on J visas will be admitted for the duration of their specific academic program to a maximum of 4 years. I mean, the problem with this is I have Korean students, for example, if you study architecture here at Penn State University, it's seen as a 5-year program. And so like, okay, so 4 years, what about the 5th year for architecture students? This becomes very problematic. Probably the next president, as I say, will rescind this order. But this is very disturbing. Listen, you need to know, Americans are not behind this. Certainly academics are not behind this. Universities collectively are taking the Trump administration to court to try to stop this kind of stuff. And so, we'll see if we can succeed in it. But yeah, this is very problematic. So on behalf of the American people who really, the vast majority don't support this nonsense, I apologize. Okay, so here's an article. Rural identity trend captivates South Korea's MZ generation. Okay, so RESCENE, the regional ambassadors, rural branding boosts youth engagement. RESCENE, so I talked about this group a while back. Let me read this for a second, so we'll go. One of their secrets to popularity is the members' regional identity have been appointed promotional ambassadors to Goje, Suwon, Gyeongju, Goyeong. Okay, so they're really pushing regional identity inside of Korea. So their success is coming from, instead of going out into the world for diversity, right? A diversity in presentation and popularity and the way they perform, they're drawing on diversity inside of Korea itself, and there's a lot of diversity inside of Korea. This is really captivating South Korea's MZ generation. It's not really being understood by people on the outside, which of course makes sense, right? So this is the thing, K-pop, the K-wave, Korea, we're always kind of working on these differences. That's pretty cool. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics, 46% of South Korea's youth population, so this is 19 to 34, were born in the capital region. But since nearly half of the youth population was born and raised in the capital region, areas outside it are perceived as unfamiliar and fresh countryside. Local cultures and rural lifestyles become new and hip content. Oh yeah, okay, that's cool. You don't need to go outside of Korea. You can just see these interesting, diverse variations inside of Korea itself. The museum attracts almost 3.8 million visitors. National Museum of Korea on track for record-breaking year. So the museum's seeing a surge in visitors for the first half of 2026. So my question then becomes, okay, who are these visitors? This surge, is it from foreigners or is it from Koreans, right? The rise is especially pronounced among international visitors. Okay, well, this is just an example of the increasing numbers of people who are visiting Korea because Korea is popular around the world, right? But one thing that's kind of interesting, so I bring students to Korea every May, and I never offer to take them to a museum because students, they don't want to go to museums. I mean, they want to go to experience Korean nightlife, youth culture. They don't want to go to the National Museum of Korea. I know that's been true my whole life, right? But this year in May, for the first time, students were asking before the trip, why aren't we visiting any museums? We want to go to the National Museum. We want to understand this part of Korea. And I thought, oh my God, that's never the case, So it's so ironic that this article pops up and says that, foreigners are responsible to a great degree in this uptick of visitors. And my students who never want to visit museums, just this past May, wanted to go. So because of K-pop demon hunters, these foreigners seem to be becoming more and more interested in traditional aspects of Korean culture, which you're going to get in the museum. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, so, okay, that's cool. Well, there you go. I think it's important to bring the modern and the traditional together, and that's one of the reasons I think K-pop Demon Hunters is very successful. Because people are interested in historic Korea. We have this idea that it's just the modern, it's just K-pop and K-drama and K-beauty and all of this, but it's actually, there's a history. This is part of slowing down some of those changes or making sure that they're in line with customs that are very old and ancient. Here's another Korea Herald article. Online debate erupts over petition to ban bus drivers from playing radio and music. Well, first off, that when I see this, I'm like, online debate. What does that mean, really? Online debate. It's like 50 people, 100 people. I talk about this all the time, but it really is important to remember that the media are a representation of the kinds of conversations that people in a society are having. But, the problem is sometimes it's not an entire society. Sometimes it's just a segment of society. And sometimes it's a very tiny fraction of a segment of society. So I don't know. When I see that, I think, okay, is this really a debate? But yeah, okay, the cabin is filled with radio or music playing from the driver's seat. And some commuters, and again, it's like, wait, how many commuters? Remember that, right? Remember, this is really important, that the nature of these kinds of articles are to bring to the surface some kinds of questions that people are having, but don't take them too seriously. The vast majority of people aren't even weighing in on this kind of thing, but it's interesting to read, right? Petition's been submitted to the Seoul Metropolitan Council calling for a ban on city bus drivers playing the radio while on duty. The broadcast may cause discomfort to passengers. Wait, first off, how loud is it? I can't imagine it's very loud. And secondly, what discomfort, right? It's public service and they don't want to listen to radio programs. Okay, maybe there's radio programs that a particular driver wants to listen to. Maybe it's political. Maybe it's a religious station and people don't want to listen to it. Okay, well, this is the kind of thing that people often ask me about things. What do I think about things like this? And I don't like to even weigh in on it. But I will say, if bus drivers are playing really loud music, then I'd be like, okay, I don't like that. Here the article says, the Korean buses are too quiet, right? But this person's saying, but I actually like that. I like it too. Although sometimes it's kind of strange. To be packed into a bus with so many people and not hear anybody saying anything, right? It's kind of odd. Korea sees first AI glasses exam cheating case. Oh man. Korean prosecutors have summarily indicted a man in his 40s for using AI-powered glasses to cheat on a national qualification exam. So even Koreans cheat. Oh my gosh. You're not gonna get away from this stuff, man. And it's just getting more and more complicated, more and more opportunities. You know, when I see this article here, I start thinking about my students. And I haven't encountered this. Maybe it's happening in my class, but maybe I just don't know it. And so reading this article actually brings it to the forefront for me and says, okay, now you're going to have to think about this yourself because this is going to be happening. That's sad. Human beings, like, I don't like cheating. I talk to many Koreans, and Koreans say that cheating is such a problem in Korea. I'm like, cheating's a huge problem. And it's a much bigger problem in other countries, you know. And post-COVID, in my own country, post-COVID, cheating has just become widely acceptable by students. It's just everybody cheats, and it's just part of it. What I get from students, because I've had a lot of conversations with them, it's like they just feel really oppressed and stressed out by having to be educated on their own in front of their computers when they were in these critical years. So right now, the current generation, so like between age of 13, 14, you know, these are my new students who are coming in. And they just learned as a way to respond to the stress and the isolation, they just learned to cheat. Of course, I'm just gonna do this because why not? COVID was very hard for so many people. So it just helped people to just smooth the edges of what was a very difficult time. And then it just became part of education for them. So, you know, I don't know. And at the same time, I don't blame them, right? If I'm asking students, hey, just memorize this information and then tell it to me on an exam, knowing that they're going to forget the information, it's like, why shouldn't they cheat? That's a silly way to educate people. Okay, let's do one more. Here was this article on Reddit that I just stumbled across. I'm going to read through some of the comments now, but it's an East Asian man, he was Korean actually, just talking about how difficult it is to date as an East Asian man compared to East Asian women, that East Asian men feeling they're really not desirable in so many spaces and cultures. And what's interesting is I did a class on this maybe about 8 years ago, and I had more responses to that class from Asian men, mostly Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, thanking me for doing that class about just the double standards in dating and how East Asian men aren't seen as potential romantic partners by people, particularly in the West, whereas East Asian women are seen as possible and potential partners. And so many Asian men just really reached out to me thanking me for doing a class where I talked about this. And I had men from my class talking about it. And I'm going to do another class. But anyway, this article here, I'm just a regular Italian guy, but I find it interesting that other ethnicities love Asian women, but they still largely date other Asians at the end of the day. I very much hear you and I can sympathize. I deal with the opposite as a black man, that I'm supposed to be some type of person, but I can't be myself. I'm an Asian guy. The majority of my dates were filtering just for Asian guys. I ended up filtering for Asians also. Yeah, it's just like people not getting dates with people who just would date anybody. It's like, this is what so many Asian men told me in responses, like people will date any guy except an Asian guy, right? And it's not that there's anything wrong, it's just that historically Asian men haven't been seen as potential romantic partners. But I will tell you that in my sense of things, it really began to shift, at least among Koreans, as you know, K-pop and K-dramas and so on, as more and more men, Korean men in particular, are out in the world as to where people can see the Korean men for all their many different aspects. And so one of the things that I talked about in my response to Asian men who reached out to me was simply, hey, look, understand that it's not about you. Okay, so this is the thing, the sociology thing. There's a personal trouble and there's a public issue. And I just help them to see that there's not something wrong with them. It's the way society is, that we as different cultures are portraying certain people, but it's changing always. It's like, look, it's changing because the center of life in the world is shifting more and more toward Asia, which means that Asian people and Asian men are naturally going to be seen in more complex ways. So just hang in there and keep going. Yeah, that was my response. And anyway, it's just interesting to see this conversation continuing. Okay, that's it for this. I'll be back. I really love this. It's so much fun for me to talk about news stories, and there's a whole bunch more. Every day I'm encountering so many different stories. So I do want to say, like, what news was most interesting for you that I talked about? And if you have any stories, definitely that you would like to see me comment on, put them in the comments and I'll look at them next time. Yeah, thank you.
Sam's News.